Sarah Chun walked fast through Union Station with her coffee cup in one hand and her phone in the other. She had only 30 minutes for lunch break before she had to be back at the concert hall for afternoon practice. The symphony orchestra was getting ready for their big show next week, and the conductor was being very strict about timing. Sarah felt tired just thinking about it. She wore her usual black dress and carried her leather bag with sheet music sticking out from the top. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun like always. People moved around her in all directions, but she did not really see them. Her mind was already thinking about the difficult part in the second movement that she still could not play perfectly. Sarah had been playing piano for 22 years now. She started when she was 5 years old. Her parents made her practice 2 hours every day, even when she was small. She went to the best music schools and won many competitions. Now she was 30 and played with one of the best orchestras in the city. This should have made her happy, but lately she felt empty inside. Every day was the same. Wake up at 6 in the morning, practice at home for 2 hours. Go to rehearsal. Come home. Practice more, sleep, then do it all again. The music that once made her heart sing now felt like work. She played the notes perfectly, but she could not remember the last time music made her feel anything real. As Sarah walked through the main part of the station, she heard something that made her slow down. Piano music was coming from somewhere nearby. This was strange because she did not know there was a piano in the station. She followed the sound and saw a small crowd of people standing in a circle near one of the big pillars. Sarah moved closer and saw an old upright piano that looked like it had been there for many years. The wood was dark brown and scratched in places. Some of the white keys were yellow with age, but the sound coming from it was beautiful. Someone was playing a song she had never heard before, but it touched something deep in her chest. She pushed through the people to get a better look at who was playing. What she saw surprised her. A man sat at the piano bench, but he did not look like any musician she knew. His clothes were old and dirty, his hair was long and messy. His shoes had holes in them. Next to him on the floor was an open guitar case with a few coins and dollar bills inside. But when Sarah looked at his hands on the keys, she forgot about everything else. His fingers moved like they were dancing. They knew exactly where to go without him even looking down. The music he played was not from any sheet music. It came from inside him and flowed out through his fingers like water. The song was sad, but also hopeful. It reminded Sarah of rain falling on windows and also of sunshine after storms. She felt something she had not felt in months. The music was making her feel alive again. Her heart was beating faster and she could feel tears starting in her eyes. The man played for about 10 minutes. His eyes were closed most of the time, like he was somewhere else far away. When he finished the last note, he opened his eyes and looked around at the people watching him. Some people clapped. Others put money in his guitar case. Most people just walked away to catch their trains or go back to work. Sarah stayed where she was. She could not move. The music was still playing in her head and she wanted to hear it again. The man started to pack up his few things. He put the guitar case strap over his shoulder and stood up from the piano bench. "Wait," Sarah said before she could stop herself. The man turned to look at her. His eyes were brown and kind, but also tired. She could see that life had not been easy for him, but there was still something bright inside those eyes. "That was beautiful," she said. "Where did you learn to play like that?" The man smiled a little. "Thank you," he said. His voice was rough, like he did not talk to many people. "I learned a long time ago, before things got hard." "Are you a musician?" Sarah asked. She knew it was a strange question because obviously he was a musician, but she meant something else and hoped he would understand. "I used to be," the man said. "Now I just play here sometimes. People seem to like it and they give me a little money for food." Sarah looked at the piano and then back at the man. "Would you play something else?" she asked. "I have a few more minutes before I have to go back to work." The man looked surprised. Most people listened for a minute or two and then left. No one ever asked him to play more. "What kind of work do you do?" he asked. "I play piano too," Sarah said. "With the city orchestra?" Now the man looked very surprised. You are a real musician, he said. A professional one. Sarah nodded, but for the first time in years she was not sure what that word meant. She was professional, but this man with no home and old clothes had just played music that made her feel more than she had felt in all her perfect concerts. "What is your name?" she asked. "Marcus," the man said. "What is yours?" Sarah. Marcus sat back down at the piano. "Okay, Sarah," he said. "One more song for you." This time he played something different. It started very soft and gentle like a whisper. Then it grew stronger and more complex. Sarah could hear that Marcus knew music theory and harmony. This was not just someone who had learned a few songs. This was someone who really understood music from the inside. As she listened, Sarah realized something important. She had been playing music for so long that she had forgotten why she started. She had forgotten that music was supposed to make people feel things. All her training and practice had made her very good at hitting the right notes at the right time, but somewhere along the way she had lost the part that mattered most. When Marcus finished playing, Sarah knew her lunch break was over. She had to go back to the concert hall. But something had changed inside her. The empty feeling was still there, but now there was also a small warm spot that had not been there before. "Thank you, Marcus," she said. "That was exactly what I needed to hear today." Marcus smiled again. "Maybe I will see you here again sometime, Sarah." "Maybe you will," she said, and meant it. Sarah could not stop thinking about Marcus and his music. All afternoon during rehearsal she kept hearing his songs in her head. When she played her usual pieces, they sounded flat and cold compared to what she had heard at the station. The conductor noticed that something was different about her playing, but he could not tell what it was. The next day, Sarah finished her morning practice early. Instead of staying home to work on difficult parts, she decided to walk to Union Station. She told herself she was just going to buy coffee, but she knew the real reason. She wanted to hear Marcus play again. When she got to the station, she looked around for the old piano. At first she could not find it because there were so many people rushing around. Then she heard the music and followed the sound. Marcus was there, sitting at the same bench, playing another song she had never heard before. This time there were only a few people listening. Most commuters walked by without stopping. Sarah stood at the edge of the small group and closed her eyes. The music was different from yesterday, but it had the same quality that made her feel something deep inside. When Marcus finished playing, he looked up and saw Sarah. His face showed surprise and then a small smile. The other listeners dropped some coins in his case and walked away. Sarah moved closer to the piano. "You came back," Marcus said. "I did not think I would see you again. Your music yesterday stayed with me all day," Sarah said. "I could not stop thinking about it." Marcus looked pleased but also a little confused. "Really? But you are a professional musician. You must hear much better music than mine every day." Sarah thought about this. "I hear music that is more complicated and more perfect," she said. "But not music that makes me feel the way yours does." She looked at the old piano with its scratched wood and yellow keys. "Do you mind if I sit down next to you?" she asked. "Maybe. You could show me how you play like that." Marcus moved over on the bench to make room for her. "I do not know if I can teach you anything," he said. "You probably know much more about music than I do." Sarah sat down and put her hands on the keys. She played a simple scale to warm up her fingers. Even this basic exercise sounded very clean and precise. Marcus listened carefully. "You have great technique," he said. "Your fingers are very strong and fast." "Thank you," Sarah said. "But technique is not everything. Your music has something mine does not have." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. Sarah tried to find the right words. "When you play, I can feel what you are feeling. When I play, people hear the notes, but they do not feel anything inside." Marcus nodded like he understood. "I never learned to play the way you do," he said. "I never had formal training for very long. I just play what comes from in here." He pointed to his chest. "Can you show me?" Sarah asked. "Can you teach me to play from there instead of just from my head?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Try playing something simple," he said, "but do not think about the notes. Think about a feeling or a memory instead." Sarah put her hands on the keys. Again, she tried to think of a happy memory from when she was young. She remembered being 7 years old and playing piano for her grandmother, who always clapped and smiled. No matter how many mistakes Sarah made, she started playing a simple melody and tried to put that warm feeling into the music. The sound that came out was different from her usual playing. It was not as perfect, but it felt more real. Marcus listened and nodded his head with the rhythm. "That is better," he said. "I can hear the feeling in it now." "Really?" Sarah asked. She felt excited, like a child learning something new. "Yes, now try it again, but this time do not worry about playing the right notes. Just follow the feeling and let your hands do what they want to do." Sarah tried again. This time she made some mistakes, but the music sounded more alive. She could feel something opening up inside her that had been closed for a long time. "Good," Marcus said. "Now let me play with you." He put his hands on the higher keys while Sarah played in the lower part of the piano. At first they did not sound good together. Sarah was trying too hard to match what Marcus was doing, but slowly she began to relax and just listen to his music and respond to it with her own. Something magical started to happen. Their two different ways of playing began to blend together. Sarah's training and Marcus's natural feeling created a sound that was better than either of them could make alone. The music flowed between them like a conversation. People walking through the station started to notice. More and more of them stopped to listen. Soon there was a bigger crowd than Marcus usually had when he played by himself. Some people took out their phones to record the music. Sarah and Marcus played together for almost 20 minutes. They went from one song into another without stopping. Sarah had never improvised like this before, but somehow she knew what to do. Marcus would start a melody and she would find harmony to go with it. Then she would play something and he would add his own ideas on top. When they finally stopped playing, the crowd clapped louder than Sarah had heard in any concert hall. People put more money in Marcus's case than he usually made in a whole day. But Sarah was not thinking about the money or the applause. She was thinking about how alive she felt. "That was incredible," she said to Marcus. "I have never played like that before." "You are a fast learner," Marcus said. "And you have good instincts when you let them out." Sarah looked at her watch and realized she had been there for over an hour. She was supposed to be at rehearsal in 15 minutes. "I have to go," she said. "But can I come back tomorrow? I am usually here around this time," Marcus said. "If you want to play together again, I would like that." As Sarah hurried to the concert hall, she felt different than she had in months. Her steps were lighter, and she was humming one of the melodies she and Marcus had created together. She realized she was looking forward to rehearsal for the first time in a long while. During practice that afternoon, the conductor stopped the orchestra several times to compliment Sarah's playing. "Whatever you did differently today, keep doing it," he said. "Your music has more life in it." Sarah smiled, but did not tell him about Marcus or the piano at the station. Some things were too special to explain to people who might not understand. Word spread quickly about the unusual piano performances at Union Station. On the third day, when Sarah arrived to meet Marcus, she was surprised to see a much larger crowd already gathered around the old piano. Some people had their phones out, recording before Marcus had even started playing. "There are so many people today," Sarah said as she sat down next to Marcus on the bench. "I know," Marcus replied, looking a bit nervous. "Yesterday after you left, more people kept coming. Some of them said they saw videos online." Sarah had not thought about people sharing their music on social media. She was used to performing for audiences, but this felt different. These were not people who had bought tickets to hear classical music. These were regular people who had stopped because something about the music caught their attention. "Are you ready?" Marcus asked. Sarah nodded, and they began to play together. As soon as the music started, the crowd grew quiet. Even people who were just trying to catch trains slowed down to listen. Sarah and Marcus fell into their rhythm easily now. Each day they played together, it felt more natural. Today they created something completely new. Marcus started with a gentle melody that sounded like morning sunlight. Sarah added soft harmony that made it feel like walking through a garden. Then the music grew stronger and more complex. Marcus played faster rhythms while Sarah added deep bass notes that made the whole song feel bigger. The crowd loved it. When they finished one song, people called out for more. Sarah looked around at all the faces watching them. She saw office workers who had stopped on their way to lunch. She saw teenagers with backpacks who should have been in school. She saw elderly people sitting on nearby benches with big smiles on their faces. "They really like our music," Sarah whispered to Marcus. "Our music," Marcus repeated. "I like the sound of that." They played for almost an hour that day. By the time they stopped, there were at least 50 people watching. The guitar case was fuller than Marcus had ever seen it. But more important than the money was the feeling in the air. People seemed happy and peaceful after listening to the music. Over the next week, Sarah came to the station every day during her lunch break. Each time the crowd was bigger than before. She started bringing simple sheet music to show Marcus songs he might like. He taught her more about playing by feeling instead of just reading notes. "Music is like talking," Marcus explained one day. "When you talk to someone, you do not think about each word before you say it. The words come from what you want to express. Music should be the same way." Sarah was learning to let go of her need to play everything perfectly. When she made a mistake, now she did not stop and start over like she used to. Instead, she let the mistake become part of the music and found a way to make it work. People started coming to the station just to hear them play. Sarah noticed some of the same faces in the crowd day after day. There was a woman in a blue coat who always stood in the front and swayed to the music. There was a man with a briefcase who sat on a bench and closed his eyes while they played. There were two teenage girls who sang along quietly when they recognized melodies. One day a local news reporter showed up with a camera crew. She interviewed some people in the crowd about why they came to listen. "Their music makes me feel better about everything," said the woman in the blue coat. "I work at a stressful job, and when I hear them play, all my worries go away for a while." The man with the briefcase said, "I lost my wife last year, and music is one of the few things that still brings me joy. These two play with so much heart that it reminds me there is still beauty in the world," the teenage girl said. "We started coming here instead of going to the mall after school. This is way better than anything we could buy in stores." Sarah watched the interviews from behind the piano. She realized that she and Marcus were not just making music anymore. They were making something that helped people feel better about their lives. This was completely different from playing in concert halls where people sat quietly and clapped politely at the end. The news story aired on television that evening. Sarah watched it at home and felt strange seeing herself on TV sitting at the old piano next to Marcus. The reporter called them an unlikely musical partnership that is bringing joy to commuters at Union Station. The next day, even more people came to hear them play. Some brought folding chairs so they could sit comfortably while listening. Others brought coffee and sandwiches like they were having a picnic. The atmosphere was becoming more like a community gathering than just a performance. Marcus seemed amazed by all the attention. "I played alone at this piano for 2 years, he told Sarah. Some days only 3 or 4 people would stop to listen. Now look at this." Sarah looked around at the crowd and felt something she had never experienced in her professional career. These people were not here because someone told them they should appreciate good music. They were here because the music made them happy. That was a much better reason. During their performance that day, a little girl broke free from her mother's hand and walked up close to the piano. She started dancing to the music, moving her arms and spinning around. Other people in the crowd smiled watching her dance. Soon more children joined her, and there was a small group of kids dancing while Sarah and Marcus played. "Look at that," Marcus said quietly to Sarah without stopping his playing. "We are making them dance." Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. This was what music was supposed to do. It was supposed to move people and make them feel alive. All those years of perfect technique and competition prizes suddenly seemed less important than this moment watching children dance to their music. When they finished playing that day, the crowd cheered louder than ever. The little girl who had started dancing ran up to the piano bench. "That was the most beautiful music I ever heard," she said in a small voice. Sarah bent down to talk to her. What is your name? She asked. Emma, the girl said. Will you play here again tomorrow? Yes, Sarah said. We will be here tomorrow. As the crowd began to leave, Sarah realized something important had changed. She was not just coming to the station to learn from Marcus anymore. She was coming because this had become the most meaningful part of her day. Playing music that made people happy was better than any concert she had ever performed. 2 weeks after the news story aired, Sarah arrived at Union Station to find Marcus sitting alone on a bench near the piano, but not playing. His guitar case was closed beside him, and he looked sad. Sarah had never seen him like this before. Marcus. What is wrong? She asked, sitting down next to him. Marcus pointed to a yellow notice taped to the side of the piano. Sarah read it and felt her heart sink. The notice said that the piano would be removed in 30 days as part of a renovation project for the station. After that, there would be new shops and restaurants where the piano area used to be. I do not know what I will do, Marcus said quietly. This piano has been my home for 3 years. Before you came, it was the only thing that made me feel like I still mattered. Now, with all the people who come to hear us play, it feels like we built something special here. Sarah felt angry and sad at the same time. There must be something we can do, she said. We cannot just let them take it away. What can we do? Marcus asked. I am nobody important. The city does not care what happens to homeless people like me. Sarah looked at Marcus and realized how little she really knew about his life. Marcus, she said gently, will you tell me your story? How did you end up living on the streets? Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he began to speak in a voice so soft Sarah had to lean closer to hear him. I grew up in a small town outside the city, he said. My mother taught me to play piano when I was very young. I was good at it, so my parents saved money to send me to music school. I got accepted to Juilliard when I was 18, Sarah was shocked. Juilliard was one of the best music schools in the world. Only the most talented students got accepted there. I studied there for 2 years, Marcus continued. I thought I would become a famous pianist or maybe a composer. I had big dreams about playing in concert halls around the world. But then my mother got very sick with cancer. I had to come home to take care of her. Marcus stopped talking and stared at his hands. Sarah waited patiently for him to continue. I spent 3 years taking care of her, he said. I used all my savings and had to drop out of school. When she died, I had nothing left. No money, no job, no place to live. I was so sad about losing her that I started drinking too much. That made everything worse. I am so sorry, Sarah said. She felt terrible that Marcus had been through so much pain. I tried to get back on my feet many times, Marcus said. But when you have been homeless for a while, people look at you differently. No one wants to hire someone who lives on the streets. I did small jobs when I could find them, but it was never enough to get a real apartment. Sarah understood now why Marcus's music was so full of emotion. He had experienced more sadness and struggle than most people ever would, but somehow he had not let it make him bitter or angry. The piano saved me, Marcus said. 3 years ago I found it here in the station. At first I just played for myself because it made me feel better. Then people started listening and giving me money for food. It became my job and my home and my hope all at the same time. Sarah felt determined to help Marcus and save the piano. We are not going to let them take this away, she said firmly. You are not nobody important. You are an amazing musician and you make people happy every day. That matters, but what can we do? Marcus asked again. Sarah thought about all the people who came to hear them play. She thought about the woman in the blue coat, and the man with the briefcase and little Emma who loved to dance to their music. We need to show the city how much this piano means to people, she said. Not just to you and me, but to everyone who stops to listen. Over the next few days, Sarah came up with a plan. She talked to some of the regular listeners and asked if they would help. She contacted the news reporter who had done the story about She even talked to her conductor at the symphony orchestra. I want to organize a benefit concert, she told Marcus. Right here in the station. We can raise money for homeless services and maybe convince the city to keep the piano. Marcus looked scared. I do not know if I can perform in a real concert, he said. What if I make mistakes? What if I am not good enough? You are good enough. Sarah said, You are better than good enough. You have a gift that touches people's hearts. That is rarer and more valuable than perfect technique. But I have never played for such a big planned event. Marcus said, When we play here it feels natural and easy. A concert feels too formal and scary. Sarah understood his fear. She remembered feeling the same way before her first big performance at the symphony. The music will be the same, she said. The people will be the same. We will just be playing for more of them at once. She sat down at the piano and started playing one of their favorite songs together. Marcus listened and slowly put his hands on the keys to join her. As they played, Sarah could see him relaxing and remembering how good it felt when they made music together. Will you help me organize this concert? Sarah asked when they finished. Playing. Marcus took a deep breath. Yes, he said. If it might save the piano, then we have to try? Sarah smiled and felt hopeful for the first time since seeing the yellow notice. She knew it would not be easy to put together a concert and convince the city to change their renovation plans. But she also knew that she and Marcus had already created something magical together. Maybe they could create one more miracle. That night, Sarah went home and started making phone calls. She contacted everyone she could think of who might help with the concert. Some people said no, but many people said yes. The woman in the blue coat offered to help sell tickets. The man with the briefcase said he knew someone who worked for the city government. Even little Emma's mother called to ask how she could help. Sarah realized that she and Marcus had built more than just a musical partnership. They had created a community of people who believed in the power of music to make life better. Now it was time to see if that community was strong enough to save their special place. The day of the benefit concert arrived faster than Sarah had expected. She woke up early feeling nervous and excited at the same time. Over the past 2 weeks, she and Marcus had worked with dozens of volunteers to plan everything. The woman in the blue coat, whose name was Linda, had sold over 300 tickets. The man with the briefcase, named Robert, had convinced a city council member to come and see what all the fuss was about. Sarah arrived at Union Station 3 hours before the concert was supposed to start. Workers were setting up extra lights and a small sound system. Someone had brought flowers to decorate around the old piano. The yellow notice was still taped to the side, but now it was surrounded by colorful posters advertising the concert. Marcus was already there tuning the piano and looking very nervous. He was wearing clean clothes that Linda had bought for him, and his hair was neatly combed. Sarah had never seen him look so formal. How are you feeling? Sarah asked him. Scared, Marcus answered honestly. What if people do not like our music when it is planned out like this? What if we disappoint them? We will not disappoint them, Sarah said. We are going to play the same music that has been making people happy for weeks. The only difference is that more people will get to hear it. As the afternoon went on, people started arriving early to get good spots. Sarah recognized many faces from their daily performances, but there were also many new people. Some had driven from other cities after hearing about the concert online. Others were reporters and photographers who wanted to document the event. Little Emma arrived with her mother and ran straight to Sarah. Are you ready to play the beautiful music? She asked. I think so, Sarah said, smiling. Will you dance for us again today? Yes, Emma said, jumping up and down. I practiced new dance moves at home. At 5 o'clock, Sarah looked around the station and could hardly believe what she saw. Hundreds of people filled the main area around the piano. Some sat in folding chairs while others stood along the walls. The crowd was much bigger than she had expected and more diverse, too. There were business people still wearing their work clothes. There were families with children. There were elderly couples holding hands. There were teenagers with their phones ready to record everything. The city council member was there, too. Sarah recognized her from pictures in the newspaper. She was talking to the station manager and looking around at all the people with a surprised expression on her face. Ladies And gentlemen, Linda announced using a small microphone, thank you all for coming to support this special concert. Before our musicians begin, I want to tell you why we are all here today. Linda explained about the piano being scheduled for removal and how much the daily performances had meant to people. She talked about how music could bring strangers together and make everyone feel less alone in a big city. When she finished talking, the crowd clapped loudly. Sarah and Marcus walked to the piano together. Sarah sat down first and played a few soft notes to test the sound system. Then Marcus joined her on the bench. For a moment they just looked at each other, and Sarah could see that he was still nervous. Remember, she whispered to him, we are not performing for them. We are sharing music with friends. Marcus nodded and put his hands on the keys. They started with the same gentle melody that had brought them together on that first day weeks ago. As soon as the music began, Sarah felt Marcus relax beside her. The nervousness left his face and was replaced by the peaceful expression he always had when he played. The crowd became completely quiet. Even the small children stopped talking and listened. Sarah and Marcus played their first song together, and when it ended, the applause was louder than anything Sarah had ever heard in a concert hall. They played for almost an hour, moving from one piece to another without stopping. Sometimes Sarah took the lead with classical training showing in her precise technique. Sometimes Marcus took over with his improvised melodies that seemed to come straight from his heart. Most of the time they played together, creating something that was completely new each moment. Emma danced just like she had promised. Other children joined her, and soon there was a whole group of kids moving to the music in front of the piano. Adults swayed and tapped their feet. Some people had tears in their eyes. Sarah realized this was what music was supposed to do. It was supposed to make people feel alive and connected to each other. Near the end of their performance, Sarah stood up and spoke into the microphone. This piano has given me something I did not know I was missing, she said. It taught me that music is not about being perfect. It is about sharing feelings and bringing people together. Marcus taught me that music comes from the heart first and the hands second. Then Marcus stood up too. Sarah was surprised because he had never spoken to a crowd before. This piano saved my life, he said in a quiet voice that the microphone picked up clearly. When I had nothing else, it gave me purpose and hope. Sarah showed me that I still have something valuable to offer the world, even though my life did not turn out the way I planned. The crowd gave them a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. People were crying and hugging strangers. Sarah looked over at the city council member and saw that she was wiping tears from her eyes too. After the concert was over, people did not want to leave. They stayed around talking and taking pictures with Sarah and Marcus. The guitar case was overflowing with donations. Linda announced that they had raised enough money to fund meals at the homeless shelter for 6 months. The city council member came over to talk to Sarah and Marcus. I had no idea this piano meant so much to people, she said. I am going to recommend that we change our renovation plans to keep it here. 3 months later, Sarah and Marcus were still playing together at Union Station every day. The city had decided to build the new shops around the piano instead of removing it. They even put up a small sign that said Community Music Area, with information about free daily performances. Marcus was no longer homeless. The money from the concert and ongoing donations had helped him get a small apartment. He also started teaching piano lessons to children at the community center. Sarah continued playing with the symphony orchestra, but now her performances there had the same emotional depth that she had learned from Marcus. Every day when they played together, Sarah remembered how empty she had felt before she heard Marcus's music that first afternoon. Now she understood that the best music was not about showing how talented you were. It was about connecting with other people and helping them feel less alone in the world. The old piano in Union Station had taught both of them that sometimes the most important things in life happen when you least expect them.